Hey all, welcome back to my channel. Let's see that how we can create the scope in a DHCP server. I have already showed you in the previous video that how you can configure the DHCP role as well as the DHCP server in your infrastructure. Once you configured both, the next step is that how you can specify the scope in your infrastructure. There are two ways. The first, you can go with IPv4, IPv6. I'm just gonna go ahead and demonstrate you with the IPv4, and the same you can replicate for the IPv6. Just do a right click on the IPv4. It's asking you for the new option, say new scope. It gives you a new wizard. Just say next. Whatever the name you want to specify, I'll say test DHCP. That the name I want to give. Suppose for this is for a particular location, I'm just gonna say New York, and I'll say next. Now I have an option to specify the start and end IP. So let's say my start IP is 10.0.2.1. The end IP is 10.0.2. I'll say 100. Sorry, 2.100. That's my first scope I want to create. Now it's up to me that what type of subnet mask I'm using. It's depending when I'm using CIDR or any other subnet mask. If not, I'll just leaving it by default just for the educational purpose. I'll say next. It's asking me that what type of IP I want to exclude in my infrastructure, because we have already configured 10.0.2.15 to my server. Similarly, you do have your switches, firewalls, printers, and other server or other equipment. You can specify their IP address, or you can give them a range. I'll say 10.0.25. Do not assign this IP address to any other device because I am manually assigning this IP address. So DHCP will not gonna issue any of these IP from its scope. Now I'll say next. Now it gives you an option for the lease duration. By default, the lease duration is 8 days. You can specify to minimum as 0 day for 1 minute, 2 minutes, depending on your need. Suggestion would be usually we go with 1 day or few hours, because sometimes if there is more user influx in the office, it will be pretty much tough to maintain your DHCP server, or as per your need, you can specify the lease time period. Just say next. Now it's asking me one more option, that do I want to configure the this scope now. I'll say yes, I want to configure this option now. It's also asking me for the router IP address. Suppose if you do have a router in your infrastructure or a print server or any other thing, previously we just excluded the range. Now it's asking me for specific IP address. I'll say 2.15. I want to exclude it. So it will not gonna again I'll say assign this IP address from its scope to anyone. Or similarly, basically you can use it for the gateway as well. It's 10.0.2.1. I'll say I'll assign this one. I'll remove the previous one because I don't need it. And that's the way we usually specify the gateway. And now it's asking me for my domain infrastructure. If you haven't configured your domain architecture, it will not gonna give you this window. In our scenario, we have already configured. That's why it's giving me this option. We have already specified this is my server IP, do not assign to anybody. That's why it's automatically coming up here. I'll say next. Now it's asking me if I do have any WINS or net BIOS computer I want to exclude from the DHCP. I doesn't want to do anything. I'll say next. You want to activate the scope now? Yes, I want to activate, and I'll say finish. The moment you do that, it will gonna automatically start doing this for me. Now if you do it here, it shows you the reservation, what type of reservation you have it, what is the address leases, what is my current pool R, and what is the DHCP scope details. If you want to see the statistics, you can just do a right click on top of it. It says display statistics. It shows you what is the current utilization of my scope. Now there is one more thing for the reservation. Suppose now after the configuration, there is a challenge that there is a new server or new router comes into the scope, and now you have to reserve that particular IP address. How you will gonna do that? Just go or to navigate to this page. Just do a reservation, say new reservation. Now specify the name of the reservation. I will say new. Specify the IP address 0.2.45. Maybe this is my new printer. I'll just specify the MAC address and the description. Now I want to look at the bottom and see what type of support type I need. Boot to your DHCP. Quickly we go with the both option, and then I'll say add. Currently it will gonna give me an error because I didn't specify the MAC address and description. Similarly, if you want to go ahead and specify the MAC binding, you can do it from here as well. So by doing this, you are saying that in future, whenever any machine coming up from this MAC, it will automatically guess this IP address, nothing else. So by doing that, you can specify those equipment in your infrastructure. Suppose if you do have the big clients or big users at your side, maybe CEO or big directors, you want that whenever they are logging in, it's easier for your server or it's easier for you that this is the IP address of their machine. They always get this particular IP address because you do have set up some rule at the firewalls for this particular IP address, or maybe you give some different type of policies and permissions. So you can specify all those things here itself. Thank you.